Some men are loud about who they are. They wear their success like a badge, announce their worth in every room they walk into, make sure the world never forgets their name. I am not that kind of man. My name is Gregory Lansing. I am 50 years old. I have been quietly invisible for 5 years. And tonight, in a room full of champagne glasses and clever people, a little plastic card just changed everything. But before I tell you what happened tonight, let me tell you who I am. 12 years ago, I sat in a cramped apartment in Seattle with coffee-stained notebooks and a whiteboard so full of diagrams there was no white left. I was building something the world didn't have a name for yet. A back-end infrastructure system I called Kareem, architecture designed to run the invisible engine beneath e-commerce. Payment processing, inventory management, order fulfillment. Everything that makes the internet work without anyone ever knowing it's there. I didn't sleep much. Michelle, my wife of what was then 14 years, would bring coffee at 2 a.m. and tell me I was obsessing. She wasn't wrong. But obsession, when it's pointed at the right thing, becomes legacy. I scaled Kareem, built it into something so fundamental, so necessary, that half the e-commerce platforms you've used without knowing, they were running on my foundation. Then I sold it. $340 million. No press release. No victory lap. Just a quiet signature and a life I thought would finally be simple. Michelle loved the money. She hated the quiet. Here's something they don't tell you about building something extraordinary. The people who love you during the struggle don't always love the version of you that comes after. When I was moving, grinding, creating, Michelle was proud. She wore our life like an identity. Married to someone important. Married to someone building. When I stopped building, she started looking elsewhere for that energy. Enter Blake Patterson. Her new boss at Velocity Hub, a startup promising to revolutionize online retail through AI-powered commerce solutions. Blake was everything I wasn't anymore. Loud. Charming. Always performing. The kind of man who walks into a room and needs everyone to know he's arrived. Michelle ate it up. 3 years ago, Velocity Hub moved into a building in downtown Seattle. Beautiful space, exposed brick, floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of place that screams we are disrupting everything. What Blake didn't know, what Michelle didn't know, was that I own that building. Not directly, of course. Through a trust, Sentinel Properties LLC, registered in Delaware, managed through a firm in Denver. The lease was signed by people who never connected the dots between Gregory Lansing and the portfolio that quietly funded their startup headquarters. I had been watching, waiting, building something they couldn't see, because they had stopped looking. Tonight was their annual company party. Michelle insisted I come. It'll be good for you to get out, she said, which really meant I need you there so people know I'm still married. I went. I stood in the corner with a whiskey I didn't finish. I watched my wife laugh at Blake's jokes. Touch his arm. Lean in close. Our 3 children weren't there. Liam was in Chicago on business. Emma was finishing her MBA semester at Stanford. Lucas was at Boulder. Just me, invisible in a room full of people who had forgotten I existed. And then it happened. I shifted my weight and my wallet slipped from my jacket pocket. It hit the marble floor with a sharp, clean slap. My building access badge tumbled out, sliding across the polished surface like a coin spinning to rest. Before I could move, Blake was there. Bending down with that practiced smile he probably uses on investors, he picked up the badge, glanced at it casually, the way people glance at things they don't expect to matter. And then he froze. Not a pause. A full freeze. His eyes locked on the name embossed in the plastic. G. Lansing. Sentinel Properties. Owner access. His face went white. Actually white. Like someone had pulled a plug somewhere behind his eyes. His hands began to tremble. And he looked up at me with an expression I had never seen on Blake Patterson's face before. Fear. He stood slowly, holding the badge between 2 fingers as if it might detonate. The noise of the party faded to distant static. His mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. And then, in a voice so low only I could hear, he whispered, "Sir, does your wife know who you are?" I held his gaze. I didn't smile. Didn't frown. I let the silence stretch, long enough to become uncomfortable. Long enough to mean something. Then I reached out, took the badge from his trembling hand, and slipped it back into my wallet. She knows exactly who I am, I said quietly. The question is, do you? Blake stepped back as if I had shoved him. His eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape, looking for Michelle, looking for anything that still made sense. But nothing did. Because in that single moment, he had realized something that would keep him awake for the rest of the night. He had been playing a game, on a board that I owned. If you think that was the beginning of the story, you're right. Stay with me. Because what happens next will make you question everything you think you know about silence, loyalty, and what a man is truly capable of when he has been patient long enough. The drive home was quiet. Not the comfortable quiet Michelle and I once shared, the kind that used to mean we don't need words right now. This was the other kind. The kind that sits between two people who stopped telling each other the truth a long time ago. She scrolled through her phone, double-tapping party photos, while I drove through Seattle's rain-slick streets. Blake seemed off tonight, she finally said, not looking up. I kept my eyes on the road. Did he? Yeah. Like something spooked him. A pause. You didn't say anything to him, did you? We barely spoke. Greg. Her tone sharpened. What happened when he picked up your wallet? He returned it. That's all. She went quiet again. But after 26 years of marriage, you learn to read silences. This one had suspicion in it, the kind that doesn't go back to sleep. We pulled into our driveway in Bellevue. The house was dark. Empty without the kids. 5,000 square feet that used to feel full. Michelle went straight upstairs without saying goodnight. I poured a scotch, opened my laptop in the study, and found 3 emails already waiting, all marked urgent, all from legal firms I had never heard of. Blake had worked fast. The first requested documentation on Sentinel Properties' ownership structure. The second asked for clarification on lease terms. The third, from Velocity Hub's general counsel, politely inquired about building access protocols and security badge issuance. I smiled. They were scrambling. Trying to figure out if what Blake had seen was real. Trying to find an angle, a loophole, a way out. They wouldn't find one. I had spent 5 years making sure of that. I opened a separate folder on my desktop. 8 months of work sat inside it. Code repositories. Commit logs. Architecture diagrams. All of it pointing to the same undeniable truth. Velocity Hub's revolutionary platform was built on Kareem's foundation. My foundation. Michelle had access to everything back when I still trusted her with my work. She downloaded documentation, saved schematics, kept copies of technical specifications, said she wanted to understand what I'd built. I believed her. She understood it. All right. Understood it well enough to hand it to Blake Patterson. I found the email chain from March 2022. Michelle to Blake, attached are the back-end frameworks my husband developed. Could be useful for reference. Blake's response, this is gold. Can we schedule a call? They hadn't stolen code directly. They were too smart for that. They had reverse-engineered it, rebranded it, wrapped it in a prettier interface, and called it innovation. But the bones were mine. The architecture. The logic patterns. The database structure. All mine. Upstairs, I heard Michelle's phone buzz. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then her footsteps, quick and sharp, across the bedroom floor. The calls were starting. The next morning, I told her what I knew. I didn't yell. I never yell. I laid the evidence in front of her the way you lay cards on a table, calmly, one at a time, watching the color drain from her face with each new card. You're paranoid, she said. I showed her the screen. Her own words staring back at her, this is gold. She went pale. Blake said it was just inspiration. A reference point. A reference point you never told me about. You weren't interested. You retired. Greg. You walked away. What was I supposed to do? Stop living because you decided to stop building? Her phone rang again. Blake's name on the screen. She answered it, walked into the next room. I heard her voice rise, defensive, then frightened. When she came back, her hand was shaking. "He's being sued," she whispered. "Some IP firm out of Delaware filed papers this morning. Patent infringement. Stolen architecture. Breach of licensing agreements." She looked at me. "Blake thinks you're behind it." "He's right. Greg, you can't do this." "I already did." Then she said the words that stopped me cold. "Our son works there." Liam. 25 years old. Sharp as anyone I had ever known. Worked his way from junior analyst to senior strategist in 2 years. So proud when he got that job. So full of something that looked exactly like the version of me I recognized from 30 years ago. And then Liam called. His voice was tight and controlled in the way that means a person is working very hard not to lose it. "Dad, why does the lawsuit mention your name 17 times?" I told him the truth. The whole truth. The emails. The architecture. The fraud. There was a long silence. "Blake's been good to me," he finally said. "Promoted me twice. Gave me real responsibility. He built his company on stolen work, Liam." "No." His voice turned cold. "You're destroying it because you can't stand that Mom found something you don't control." That hit harder than I expected. 3 days later, Emma called from Stanford. My analytical daughter, the one who inherited my mind and Michelle's grace, who told me in a quiet, careful voice that she had invested $50,000 of her trust fund in Velocity Hub Series B. "Mom told me it was solid," she said. "I didn't know it was built on your work." And then she told me something else. Velocity Hub was raising money, $90 million, based on a projected valuation of $450 million. Pension funds. Family offices. 3 major VCs. All of them investing in a fraud. "Dad," Emma said, her voice cracking slightly. "Liam is engaged. He proposed 2 weeks ago. His fiancée works at Velocity Hub. They met at the company Christmas party." I closed my eyes. If you destroy the company, you don't just destroy Blake. You destroy Liam's career, his engagement, and my savings. You'll be the reason everything falls apart. She paused. Mom did the same thing when she handed Blake those files. She made a decision without asking how it would affect anyone else. Another pause. "You're more alike than you think." That cut deeper than anything else. Stay with me for part 3, because how this ends will change the way you think about justice, family, and what it truly means to win. Blake requested a meeting through his attorney. Neutral ground, a conference room at a downtown law firm. Michelle insisted on coming. I didn't object. We arrived separately. Blake was already there, looking like a man who hadn't slept in days. His attorney, Patricia Kellerman, sat beside him with a stack of folders that probably cost 6 figures to assemble. Michelle took her seat across from Blake. I sat at the head of the table. Not because anyone told me to. Because it was simply where I belonged. Patricia began with the formal pleasantries. I cut through them. "Blake can speak for himself." He straightened. Took a breath. "Greg, I want to apologize. When Michelle sent me those files, I thought they were general reference materials. I didn't realize." "You responded, 'This is gold.' That doesn't sound like someone looking at reference materials." He flinched. Patricia slid a paper across the table, their opening offer. $15 million. 3% equity. A seat on the board. I looked at the number for a long moment. "That's what you think 12 years of my life is worth?" "It's a starting point," Patricia said smoothly. "We're open to negotiation. Here is my counteroffer." I leaned forward. "You shut down Velocity Hub. Return all investor capital with interest. And Blake publicly admits to IP theft." The room went very still. "That would destroy my reputation," Blake said. "You destroyed it yourself." Michelle's voice cut in. Think about Liam. Think about Emma's investment. I'm thinking about them. I'm thinking about what it teaches them if their father lets someone steal his life's work without consequences. What about what it teaches them, she said, if their father destroys their futures for revenge? Then Blake said something I hadn't expected. His voice dropped, quieter now, stripped of the performance. What if I step down? Resign as CEO? Give up my equity? Publicly state that the company was built on technology licensed from you? We restructure, with you as majority owner. You get control. I get nothing. He met my eyes. But the company survives. The employees keep their jobs. Your son keeps his career. It was a better offer than I had anticipated. Smart, even. There's one condition, I said. Name it. Michelle resigns. Immediately. No severance. No equity. No ties to the company. She enabled this. She handed you the ammunition to build a fraud. She put our children's money into it without telling me. The room went cold. Michelle's head snapped up. What? I kept my eyes on Blake. She leaves, or the company dies. Your choice. Blake looked at Michelle. A long, heavy look. Then he turned back to me. I can't accept that. Then we're done here. I stood. Michelle grabbed my arm. Greg, you can't. Watch me. I walked out. Behind me, I heard Blake's voice, low, defeated. I'll draft the resignation letter. I didn't stay to hear Michelle's response. They all came home that evening. Liam from Chicago. Emma from Stanford. Lucas from Boulder. I heard them arrive from my study, their voices mixing with Michelle's in the foyer. Not warm reunion voices. Strategy voices. Lucas found me first. He didn't knock. He walked in, closed the door, and looked at me the way you look at someone you love who is also making a terrible mistake. Dad. Lucas. I'm not here for a hug. I'm here because my father is destroying our family and someone needs to tell him he's being an idiot. I almost smiled. That's direct. I learned from the best. He sat down across from me, and for the next hour, my 3 children, one by one, told me the truth. Not the legal truth. Not the financial truth. The human truth. Liam told me he had built something real at Velocity Hub, regardless of who owned the foundation. Emma told me that justice without mercy is just another word for cruelty. Lucas told me that the man he had always looked up to was someone who built things, not someone who burned them. You taught us that, Dad, Lucas said. You can create, or you can destroy. You can't do both and call yourself whole. I called Patricia the next morning. New terms. Blake's resignation stands. Full public disclosure that Velocity Hub was built on licensed architecture belonging to Gregory Lansing. A licensing agreement, retroactive and going forward, with a fair royalty structure. No criminal complaint, provided full compliance. Velocity Hub would survive. Under new leadership. On honest terms. Liam would keep his career. His fiancée would keep hers. Emma's investment would recover. The 90 million in outside capital would be protected. And I would finally have what I had been quietly building toward for 5 years. Not revenge. Recognition. Michelle and I are separated now. It wasn't the lawsuit that ended us. The lawsuit was just the moment we both finally stopped pretending. She found a new position on her own. I didn't interfere. After 26 years, she deserved the dignity of that. We still talk, civilly, occasionally, for the sake of our children. Some things, once broken, become something different rather than something repaired. That's not failure. That's just the honest shape of a life lived forward. Herb the life lesson. This is what the story of Gregory Lansing teaches us. Silence is not weakness. Patience is not defeat. And the most dangerous person in any room is not the loudest one. It is the one who built the room. But beyond that, and this is the part that matters most, justice without love is just revenge with better paperwork. Gregory nearly destroyed everything real in his life to protect something that, in the end, he had already won. His children reminded him of what he had actually built, not just a company, not just a portfolio, but 3 people of character, intelligence, and moral courage. The greatest architecture he ever designed wasn't Kareem. It was them. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the quiet people in your own life who are building something you haven't noticed yet, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Tell us in the comments, who in your life deserves to be seen? New stories every week. Stay close. The next one might be about you.